Hey, how's it going? This is Coach Alex from DCBA and the Academia Braves. Here we're taking a look at one of our 14U hitters, big strong lefty, pitcher first base, and a good strong hitter. Gonna break down his swing and just kind of take a peek at what we can do to improve, what good things are going on, and then we'll kind of make a game plan there. So here we go. Starting off, first things first. Width there, it's pretty good. He can maybe be a little bit wider. He's a big, strong kid, tall dude, big legs. When we start in that narrow, it can be kind of hard to you gotta take a pretty big stride. And the larger your stride is, the more complex your timing becomes. Generally speaking, the less consistent you're going to be, especially when you're only hitting 1 or 2 days a week in February. So my first recommendation would probably be to split that stance a little bit wider. Maybe put the middle of the foot on that white line. That'll give us, about 2 or 3 more inches of space between those feet. Probably be a good start. Bending the knees is great. Good athletic stance. Traveling to the top half. This front elbow is way too flat here. Ideally, I'd like to see that front elbow. Here's our shoulder. Front elbow sits right at our sternum, right where our chest meets our belly. By keeping that front elbow a little bit lower, as long as we keep our wrist strong and straight, what we're going to see is this bat angle kind of flip up here, somewhere in that 40 to 50 degree range, which is really going to help us later on in our swing. Okay, going off of that, alongside keeping the front elbow a little bit lower and raising that bat angle, we're never going to start with our back elbow lower than our front elbow. You're only going to have one elbow sitting low comfortably at a time before we turn our hips. So if this back elbow is this low, as he goes into his swing and this back elbow begins to creep forward, what you're going to see is this front elbow comes flying out, and as that front elbow comes flying out, that front shoulder is going to go flying away too. So it just becomes this huge rotational thing where our front side goes flying away, pulls our head off the baseball, pulls our bat away from the outside of the plate, makes it very difficult to hit across the plate, makes it very difficult to hit consistently. So in the top half, front elbow, this guy, you're going to get that right about there. Back elbow, probably going to be like right about there. And if we keep our wrist good and strong, that should give us a nice bat angle somewhere through there. All right, moving forward. As we get into the stride itself, a little bit of weight shift back. This guy does a double tap. We've talked about it a little bit. Double taps can be tricky with the timing. So here we see the first tap, 1 and 2 into the stride. And right here is his foot strike, right? That's where his foot is completely down. Some good things in this image. Right here, we can see a little bit of shade under that back foot. We got great weight transfer during the stride. He's definitely got the small majority of his weight over that front hip. Got a pretty light back hip there. It's going to make it very easy for him to get that thing through there, which is awesome. Again, very strong lower half with this guy. The top half is where we encounter our issues. So as I said before, with that back elbow starting lower than the front elbow, you can see this front elbow starting to bar out right now. It's very, very straight. You can see now how low that back elbow is. 2 places in our swing that we get the most power from. Number 1, our hip rotation. Can't say enough how important hip rotation is. But number 2 is the hinge that our back elbow creates. So generally, if the back elbow is sitting up here, he's taking his stride. As he begins his hip rotation, that back elbow is going to crash down to the ribs. Now, once his back elbow crashes down to the ribs, that's going to get our barrel into the hitting zone. And we're going to be able to keep both of our elbows flat because we waited until our hip rotation began. If you can see it here, right? The back elbow is coming down. Both of these elbows can't be low. It's just very uncomfortable, very awkward for the body, even with perfect grip on the bat. So as this back elbow comes down, we're going to see this front elbow just kind of fly up and away, which is going to lead to some issues later on. So here, again, very flat barrel behind. Very flat. We still want to be up nice and tall. One of the things I always say to my kids that I work with, if I took a picture of you before you took your stride, and I took a picture of you after you took your stride, the only difference we see is your weight transfer and the space between your feet. Here we're seeing a very upright stance into the stride. We've crouched over in our chest. Hands are most of the way into the swing. Front elbow is locked up. So you're doubly hurting yourself here because if that guy, say we're a righty, we're coming in here and we're throwing a little changeup outside, that bat is traveling away from that changeup. There's no way that we're going to have a very hard time hitting that ball effectively. We're probably going to roll over to third or ground out third base, maybe roll over at first base. It's going to be hard to be an effective hitter against a decent pitcher. Okay, rolling forward. Because that right elbow was barred out, that front elbow was barred out, it's pulling the back elbow into kind of an awkward position there, kind of next to the belly button. You can see in this shot how far that elbow is into the body. Too far there. What we have behind the barrel then is basically just thumbs. All we have is our thumbs there making that barrel want to go forward, which again, we're facing a harder pitcher, high 60s, mid 70s at 14U. It's going to make that hitting more difficult. We're not going to turn that ball around the way that we should be. Now, if you just go to the end point of the swing and looking at it, you think, man, that looks pretty good. I agree. It does look really good. He's nice and tall. We got a great line from foot to head. This line back here is not bad. We need to see this back heel a little bit higher. But with the current swing, it's going to be hard to see that back heel higher, and I'll explain why. We take our stride. Good weight transfer. But if you really watch here, the hands and the elbows move a lot more distance before the hips do. So hands and elbows have really begun to move. That moves our shoulders. Hips are only about halfway through there at this point. At this point, the hips should be all the way through, and our hands should probably be a little bit further back. We want to create what we call hip-shoulder separation. Now, once you get to foot strike, which is when the toes and the heel hit the ground on the front foot, as long as we've had good weight transfer, we really should be able to turn our hips first without turning our shoulders. We want to create torque in the core here. Okay, now, if you open up your shoulders and your hips all at the same time, you're not going to create that torque. It's not physically possible. Also in the same vein, you don't want your shoulders to go first. If your shoulders are turning first, most of the time, we're going to see that barrel moving down through the baseball, and we're going to be pounding our ground balls, choppy line drives. Not really the most productive way of hitting. So, from a timing perspective, we want to make sure that as we stride, the hands stay tall, so that we are then able to turn the hips without turning the shoulders, building up our torque in our core. Now, once our hips get, a third of the way through there, a quarter of the way through there, now our back elbow is going to hinge down. That back elbow hinging down is what brings our hands into the hitting zone. And now we drive through with our top hand and our back hip and our back elbow. We drive those guys through the baseball, and we'll end up in the same position here, but we're going to be hitting the ball a lot harder, and the ball's going to have a little bit better launch angle to it. Again, beautiful finish here. Excellent look. Big, strong kid. He's going to hit the ball very hard. It's just a couple little minor fixes. It's really the first couple fixes in the elbows. Very simple pre-swing stuff. Just got to make sure we're paying attention there. The timing in the middle between the top and the bottom half of the shoulders and the hip turning, that can be a little bit more difficult, but total confidence this guy can handle it. So, quick little recap. Just making sure that we're a little bit wider to start. As we stride, the hands are staying tall. Get your elbows in a better position to start. Better bat angle to start. We should never have our barrel that low like that before we begin going forward. Hips before shoulders, but get great extension there through the baseball. Barrel's moving up past the legs. Nice swing right there. Being kind of nitpicky, but I want the best for this kid. So, thanks again. If you have any questions, let me know. And this has been Alex. Thanks, and bye.